What's up, everybody? It's been way too long, but we are back with another episode of OC and TJ. We're pretty much embodying the whole offseason between May and June, where it's just like we're not really active as much. But you know what? A lot of headlines have taken place over the last 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about them. But first, it's OC, it's TJ. What's going on, buddy?
Colin, you basically nailed it. It's tough to think about things, to talk about because it is a very dead period in, I guess, the whole NFL year. But, there's still some storylines that we could talk about, people getting paid, which we'll get into, and just some other cool stuff. So excited to talk about it.
Exactly. I mean, minicamp has started. OTAs have pretty much been going on for a while now. Guys have been getting paid, and some are coming out with pretty interesting hot takes, which we're going to get into. So I think we should start with the big headline of the day, which is Justin Jefferson now becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. $35 million a year for 4 years, a whopping, it's $120 million guaranteed, I think. It's somewhere up in that range.
Yeah.
But not only is he the highest paid receiver, he is also, like I said earlier, the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. So, I mean, I guess the question is, does he deserve it, or are we surprised? Because I think those answers are pretty obvious. But, we could talk about Justin Jefferson, but there are several other wide receivers holding out for bigger contracts. CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk have missed minicamp. T. Higgins is holding out. Tyreek Hill, I mean, he doesn't want to be the highest paid receiver, but he wants a new contract so that way he'll be in Miami throughout the rest of his career. So there's a lot to talk about, but I think where should we even start when it comes to this conversation? Because, I mean, we already know Jefferson has set the market, and deservedly so, but who do you think is going to be right up there with him?
Well, first of all, when you think about it, right, like Justin Jefferson, first of all, like that contract, like you basically asked a question, and I think it's pretty obvious. He absolutely deserves that contract. It's not even a debate. He is, for JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold, whoever's starting, he's a massive, he was balling out with Nick Mullins.
He's a game changer.
He's a game changer. There's really no, he has everything. He's one of the best route runners in football. His change of direction is crazy, so elusive. I mean, he doesn't have, the only thing you can really knock him for is, he doesn't have top-end speed, but it doesn't matter when you have route running ability.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
He's got everything else you want.
He has everything.
He's got the verticality. He's got the athleticism. He makes contested catches. He's awesome at route running. I mean, Jerry Rice wasn't fast, but he's still the greatest wide receiver ever because of his route running because of his timing.
Yeah, it does not really matter for him, and he's not slow either. He's still a fast guy. It's just so that's part of it. To the part of the conversation. I think the other part is just like you mentioned, who else is going to get paid next. I don't really understand what the Cowboys are doing, to be completely honest. I totally thought they would have tried and get this CD deal done before the Jefferson deal.
Well, I mean, the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb to pay, not Tyron Smith, he's already in the Jets. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak Prescott, and all three of them are going to want to be the highest paid players at their positions.
Yeah, I think with Jamar Chase, that it's really confusing what they're going to do with T. Higgins. I think they'll want to prioritize Jamar Chase because they're both good players, but obviously Jamar's the better player. And then I'm missing someone. Oh, Brandon Ayuk. The Brandon Ayuk situation's weird because it just seems like that they're not even close to meeting the demands of each other, the team camp and then the player camp. So I don't know what's going to go on there. If I had to guess, I think Jamar gets paid very soon. I think CD gets paid very soon, and Brandon Ayuk, I don't really know what's going to happen there. I feel like that's the one that's on most on iffy grounds because CD and Jamar are going to get paid. There's no way the Cowboys or the Bengals let them go or trade them like that. I just like, no, I don't see that happening. But yeah, this for sure set the market, man. Justin Jefferson, because now this is the floor for those top end receivers. But yeah, it's a good day for. It was a good day for Minnesota. They got, a guy who's literally on a Hall of Fame trajectory right now, under contract. So can't ask for anything better if you're the Vikings.
Yeah, I agree. Hold on, I'm pulling up the 49ers cap space here just so I can, hold on, let me share this. Because obviously I don't think there's anything to discuss when it comes to Justin Jefferson, just because it's like,
what Grady is.
Here we go.
It's really all the.
So this is the 49ers cap space situation, because you were talking about Brandon Ayuk. This is pretty much their whole cap situation. So they got $19 million in dead money. They can't really afford to give Brandon Ayuk the extension right now, but at the same time, when you look at the top 51, it's close to $32 million. So I never really know what you have to pay attention to. I don't know if it's this or if it's the top 51, but I'm gonna guess it's the first one. And if you look at these cap hits right here, that's a lot of money that you're giving to your top guys. I mean, and listen, for some of them, it's rightfully so. I mean, you got the best blindside blocker in all of football. You got Deebo Samuel, who is rumored to be traded. Nick Bosa, who is an unbelievable game wrecker. You got Fred Warner and George Kittle. So, I mean, some of these cap hits are justifiable, and you just gave Christian McCaffrey $19 million a year to be the highest paid running back. So, for Brandon Ayuk, he doesn't really have too much leverage here, because I think, listen, he is an incredibly talented receiver. He's the number one option, like T. Higgins, on any other team if it wasn't for the situations that they're in right now. But it's just either he holds out and forfeits close to $14 million that he's going to be owed, or, I mean, I don't know. I think any team could want him, but it's just, if you're the 49ers, if you give him this contract extension, knowing that you still haven't even given Brock Purdy a second contract, then, I mean, you're pretty much just setting yourselves up for a financial cap hell. And for a lot of teams, that has never panned out well. If, when you give so many of your star players that much money and then so many things go against your way. I mean, look at the Buffalo Bills right now. I mean, look what they've had to go through. And now it's just, I mean, some people are thinking that their future is bleak right now, while others think that they're still a top contender. Chiefs had to do that with Tyreek Hill, but, I mean, they're the outlier because they won back-to-back Super Bowls. So, I mean, the 49ers is a tricky situation, but if you're the Cowboys here, I was watching on First Take. They were asking, all right, who should you prioritize the most between CD and Micah and Dak? And I think they should prioritize Micah Parsons, to be quite honest with you, because, I mean, he's their best defensive player, first of all. He's the heart and soul of the football team, at least on the defensive side. I mean, some could say it's Dak, but Micah Parsons is definitely right up there. And more importantly, I think, if you're CeeDee Lamb, I don't think you're getting $35 million a year. I don't think he's really worthy of that. I mean, I definitely think he gets a contract extension, but you're pretty much saying, when you're getting that much money, you're pretty much saying, I am the best receiver in all of football. I am just as valuable, if not more valuable, than Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. And while CeeDee Lamb is a top 5 wideout, I don't really think you should make him the highest paid wideout. And then the Dak situation is so freaking complicated, because he has all the leverage in the world to get a contract extension or to get a second contract. The problem is his asking price is going to be ridiculous, because apparently, some are saying he might want $60 million a year. Others are saying that he wants, 55 or 56. He is definitely not getting $60 million. If I am Jerry Jones, I am completely throwing that offer in the trash. But he put himself in a ridiculous position here, where it's kind of the same thing with the 49ers. It's just either you pay all three of them and give them what they want, or you're going to piss off one of them and let them walk out the door, which is sort of similar to what the Giants were in last year. They gave Dexter Lawrence a big contract, as well as Andrew Thomas. They gave Daniel Jones $40 million a year, yet they put Saquon Barkley on the franchise tag, and now he's in Philadelphia. So,
Yeah, I think
I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, I would definitely prioritize getting Micah contract extension done first, and then seeing how everything else plays out with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. But yeah, both the 49ers and Cowboys, they are in serious trouble right now. And if they can't figure anything out by training camp, then it's going to be a very, very interesting summer because these guys are not afraid to hold out at all.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few things here. I think first, with CD, I think he might actually get more than 35. I do disagree with you on that. I think Justin Jefferson set the floor for obviously Jefferson I think is a better player than CD. Well, he is because he's the best receiver in the league in my opinion. But
yeah,
we've seen it doesn't really matter when it comes to like the market and stuff like that because it's really just like a next man up. Like the next man up is going to get more money. So I honestly think CD might get around 35. Which is what makes the Cowboys in even more of a crazy situation, adding to your point on that.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd probably prioritize Micah too, just because Micah's like, you could make the argument he's like one of the best defenders, if not the best defender in all of football. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on there.
Look at their cap space.
And then it becomes
they're $17 million over the cap, the Dallas Cowboys are, and they're taking on $21 million in dead money. And remind you, they're still taking on Zeke's old contract.
Yeah, and they got him back, which makes it even more funny. But
exactly,
I think so. Like both the situations for the Niners and the Cowboys, they need to pay people, but also they need to think about their quarterback situation because I think with Dak, that you're right, that situation is tough because he was legit an MVP candidate this year. Same thing with Purdy. I would lean if I had to choose which one to pay. I would pay Purdy because he's younger and he's proven he can do it in at least to an extent in the playoffs. Dak has had a few good playoff games, but like most of the time, it's a lot of bad.
He's never been to a conference championship game though.
I know. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Dak,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, say that they give Dak his huge contract first. How do you think Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb are going to react? They'll be happy that, their best friend and their teammate got a big contract, but individually, as a player, you're thinking to yourself, am I really that less valuable than Dak Prescott right now, knowing that I haven't even gotten a second contract and I put my blood, sweat, and tears into making sure that we're still in the playoffs year after year?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Dak is like, I'd say Dak is one of the main reasons the Cowboys are always in the playoffs. The problem is he's always the reason they get bounced out. So it's it's like where do you kind of make your part? Because like the Cowboys could realistically just let Dak, because Dak's gonna have a market. Like if he hits free agency and the Cowboys just decide to get it, it's like some team like the Raiders or
Giants,
the Giants,
the Broncos drafted Bo Nix, but
like the Saints would throw $1 million.
The Saints have Derek Carr, and they're paying him $40 million.
Well, yeah, that's fair. But I mean, like, they probably wouldn't do. Well, I mean, the Giants. Well, the Giants kind of have it out.
It's like the most realistic spot for him as of right now, because I mean, several other teams have their quarterbacks in place. Others drafted them very high. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who else? I think it's just the Raiders.
The Raiders are probably the one that makes the most sense to me, actually, now I think about it.
I mean,
that's to be determined. A lot has to happen before we find out what Dak's future is. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like how they, like when and how they decide to pay these players. But yeah, I think I'd agree with you. Micah's definitely the one I'd prioritize. And CD's not far behind. It's just, they're both great, and honestly, Dak you'd want.
I mean, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, when it comes to the Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb, it's just they gotta come to a middle ground here because it's like, I mean, you saw what the Eagles did with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. You saw what the Lions did with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They never really became the highest paid players. They just put them in a reasonable position in that market, so that way they earn their respect amongst their peers and amongst several organizations. With the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb and Jerry are going to have to really come to that point where it's like, okay, I might not get paid $35 million a year, but I still feel like I should get my due compensation and be right around that range and make sure that I have an extra ticket, a signing bonus, or a guaranteed money. That's what I think, because, I mean, both of them are in a lose-lose situation here. And with Dak, it's an entirely different discussion because at least when he got his extension after the 2020 season, it was warranted because the minute he got hurt, the rest of the team sucked. He had been in a holdout war with Jerry for a long time now, and at some point in time, it was just going to come to a boiling point. And when that injury happened, Jerry Jones just had no choice but to give him that money. This time, you saw the legitimate sample size. 2 playoff victories, no conference championship appearances, no Super Bowl appearances. So even though Dak has all the leverage to get the type of contract he wants, I don't know if Jerry Jones is going to be willing to meet that asking price. And it's going to be a lot. And it's going to set the Cowboys back a lot, even if Trey Lance, ends up being a promising player, if that's who they go with.
They're an interesting team, man, because it's like, I don't know, because are they going to take a step back? I honestly think they're still going to be good. It's just can Dak? It's the playoff games, man. That's really why they're not paying him right now. So
exactly. Well, speaking of quarterbacks that disappoint in the playoffs, let's move on and talk about some other quarterbacks that are eligible for contract extensions. Tua Tagovailoa and Trevor Lawrence. In 2019, these two were going at it in the national championship. Clemson completely destroyed them 44-16. And, half the world was celebrating because, Alabama was college football's version of the Patriots. And Trevor Lawrence was literally a true freshman that put the team on his back and led them to a national championship. And now both of them have done pretty well for the most part at guiding their franchises on the right path. And now that they're up for contract extensions, they're trying to get them further and further down the road. The problem is, and the real question is, do you really want to pay each of them $50 million a year? And my answer to that is hell no, but I'll let TJ go on for it. Go on with this.
Oh, this is a tough one because they when you think about it, they almost have to, but not really though. So if I'm looking at both of them, which one would I rather? Okay, there's a difference between which one I'd rather have. No, I don't even think that. Which one would you rather have? I would rather have.
This is tough.
Well, here's the thing. Tua.
At least Trevor Lawrence has won a playoff game.
Well, I get that, but
that's the one thing that he has over Tua. But they're like the same tier of quarterback, so it's really tricky.
I think Tua is way more productive than Trevor Lawrence and has been better. Trevor is just so much more talented though, which is why it's tough because you're banking on more with Trevor. With Tua, there's you're gonna pay him and you're gonna know what you get. It's gonna be similar to a Dak and a Kirk Cousins type of thing, right?
I'm pulling up the values right here. Just so this is pretty much the highest paid quarterbacks in terms of average salary, how much they're getting paid per year. So this is what it looks like right now. Honestly, my reasonable asking price would be to give him $45 million a year, 40 to 45. That's what I would say.
That's still so well, maybe but
it's still a lot. But this is what the market is right now.
I know, but with Tua, okay, here's the thing I'm thinking. If you want to win playoff games or try and win playoff games, go with Tua. But are you ever going to win a Super Bowl with Tua? I'm not going to say no, but what do you think? Do you think you'll ever win a Super Bowl with Tua?
Well, I think it's the same question you can ask with Trevor Lawrence because both of them are starting quarterbacks for any football team. They deserve to get contract extensions because Trevor Lawrence has completely rebounded after his Urban Meyer rookie season. And Tua, even with the criticism thrown his way about, how he can't live up to big moments and, him dealing with all the injuries that he suffered in 2022, he still has been capable of leading this team to victories. And same thing with Trevor Lawrence. But here's the thing. I saw a quote from Ryan Poles explaining why they decided to go with Caleb Williams and not Justin Fields. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I'm just pretty much going to go outright and say that with Justin Fields, you can win games with Justin Fields, but you win games because of Caleb Williams. And I think that's what you're getting with Tua and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, yeah, you can win games with them, but are you really going to win because of that? Because of them? That's the big question right there. Even though they're definitely capable starting quarterbacks, it's just this is what makes Joe Burrow and Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes so great is that you know that anytime that they get in a bind or anytime that the team needs a miracle in the fourth quarter, those are going to be the guys that'll deliver them home. And with Tua and Trevor Lawrence, you don't really know if you could say that right now because they don't have the credentials.
They also, I mean, with Tua, it's tougher to evaluate because he's on such a good team or such a good offense. So it's like how much of that is him. With Trevor, like at least you could make the argument like he really hasn't had much to work. I think a lot of the time it's tough, man, because they are really very similar. They're just different. When you look at context, it's very different. Like they're in the same situation, but in different ways. So what I mean is like Trevor has just really like been very inconsistent where Tua, yeah, maybe he's been consistent, but like you're not getting much more than that. So it's like if I had to pay someone, I'm probably paying Trevor $50 million over Tua.
I'd say Trevor too, because I mean, he is like, I mean, it's not really saying much because they haven't been a franchise for so long, but he's pretty much the best quarterback they've had since Mark Brunell in the 1990s. So, I mean, I think you got to make sure that you keep some stabilization there, whereas Miami, it's just, Tua's a solid quarterback, and I'm not saying that the Dolphins shouldn't pay him because he definitely deserves a contract extension. The only problem we have is that they should not be getting $50 million a year. And eventually, you know what? That's going to happen. But at the same time, it's for the Dolphins. They are already in a tricky amount of cap hell because let me pull it here for a second. But anything else you want to add before I pull this up?
No, I think I pretty much agree with everything you said. Like, I think with like the market just kind of demands $50 million, and they don't really have much leverage though because I feel like I don't think they'll get that much. Like even if they leave in free agency, I don't think they'd get that much on the market. So I think you make them both play out this year, and then you go from there, and then see how well they play, and then that'll dictate what contract they get. So
I mean, they already picked up Tua's fifth-year option, so they're definitely not going to panic into giving a contract extension just yet. And I think they did the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. So really, if you're management, you should not rush into this at all whatsoever. And I agree with you. Just let it play out. But this is what I was bringing up with the cap situation for the Dolphins. They're $13 million over the cap when you take into account of everything. And if you look at their cap hits, Tyreek Hill is being owed $31 million. Tua has his fifth-year option picked up, so that's another $23 million. They gave Bradley Chubb a good amount of money. That's $15 million. Terron Armstead, $10 million. And Jalen Waddle's contract extension hasn't even kicked in yet. So, the Dolphins are investing a lot of money into their core. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't because that's what you need to do to make sure that you're still worthy of being playoff contenders. And, if you prove that you can take the next step, then Super Bowl contenders. I'm just saying, if you give Tua $50 million a year, then you're pretty much going to be winding back up in the same situation as the Bills a few years later. Because unless you win a championship, it's just going to be disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Not because of Tua Tagovailoa, because if the team, as talented as it is, just keeps sticking it up against the teams that they need to beat, then I mean, what's the point of us ever having faith in them when the offseason rolls around? So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I think that's nailed it right on the head there.
Yeah. All right. So we already talked about quarterbacks getting paid and wide receivers getting paid. Or actually, you know what? No, I mean, the A.J. Brown extension, that already took place a long time ago. But I did want to talk about this for a little bit. So during OTAs, new Titans head coach Brian Callahan had his post-practice media session, and I think a question popped up about Treylon Burks and how, what his role is gonna be with the team. And apparently, Callahan said that he needed to be at least a good contributor on special teams if he wants to have a roster spot. And I'm paraphrasing it a little bit, but it was somewhere along those lines. I think this pretty much confirms that the A.J. Brown trade made by John Robinson, the former general manager, was an absolute failure. First of all, it was the whole reason why he got fired, because the minute that A.J. Brown completely torched them when they played each other in 2022, literally the day after, John Robinson was given his walking papers. So, how bad would you actually grade this A.J. Brown trade on a scale of 1 to 10?
Man, it's bad. I'll start off by saying that. I'll say like a 2 because I
a 2?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm
for the Titans.
Yeah, a 2 for the Titans, like that bad. Like what? Or I'm assuming you meant 10, like
I meant like 10 is like the highest in terms of failure.
Oh, then yeah, like a 9. I'm sorry, I thought you meant like.
No, I know what you mean. I can understand where you're going with. Okay.
Yeah, like a 9 because like I thought Treylon Burks would be a good player. I mean, he showed some promise in a few games, but really with him, it's been injuries, and then it just hasn't worked out. He hasn't been the talented player that they thought. So I thought, like in that sense, I thought maybe they'd be able to kind of. I mean, it was a bad trade from the beginning because why wouldn't you just pay him? He's like one of your best players. But yeah, I think this just was like a massive collapse for them or massive failure for them, just because dude, legitimately he was one of their best players. I mean, obviously they had Henry, they have Simmons, but he was like their alpha receiver, and I feel like the Titans felt like the Titans kind of viewed him as like a number 2 maybe, because they just didn't even want to pay him like 20. I think the number was like 24, and they were just like, no, we don't want to pay you that. And I'm like, now that's like wide receiver 2 money. So that makes sense why that GM got fired, because he didn't really have the foresight to see that contract would have been a bargain at this point. So
exactly.
Yeah, it sucks for the Titans.
Yeah, this is a 10 because listen, I hope that Treylon Burks ends up bouncing back and makes sure that he's in a reasonable situation where he at least has a chance to develop and has a chance to really thrive. But yeah, it was a horrible freaking trade from the beginning. The minute that he was traded to the Eagles, I'm like, yeah, this team is winning the NFC East because, Jalen Hurts was going to be a better quarterback. They already have a loaded offense. They have plenty of talent on their defense back then. And sure enough, his first year there, they go to the freaking Super Bowl. And then even though they freaking collapsed the second year, he was still having a Pro Bowl worthy season. I think he had 7 or 8 straight games with 100+ yards. He was freaking lighting it up, and he was letting the world know that the Tennessee Titans really made the biggest mistake by sending me over to Philadelphia. And as for the Titans, they have literally been on a downward spiral since. Their best player is gone. They fired their head coach. They already fired their general manager. They moved on from the starting quarterback that they paid a ton of money for in 2019. The defense is spinning around in circles. The O-line is an absolute travesty. And now, I mean, listen, the Titans should be a hopeful team heading into this season since, they got Will Levis and they got DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley, and their defense now is L'Jarius Sneed, and they still have Jeffrey Simmons and Harold Landry, but they should not be in the position where you're trying to surprise everybody into thinking you're good. You should have still stayed in that playoff contending window that you were in from 2019 to 2021 when you clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC. And, I mean, this is what John Robinson did. He pretty much sent back the team, and now you're just hoping that everything goes right.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird now because they got a lot of good weapons for Levis, so it's kind of I think it kind of makes up for it a little bit just because they're at least trying to help him out now. But man, it's to think that you literally you're basically the Calvin Ridley thing is crazy because they're paying him the same amount. So it's just to think if they had AJ Brown instead. But yeah, what are you gonna do, man? That's why he's fired. So I think that pretty much sums that up, right?
Yep, absolutely. I don't think there's any more explanation for that. But let's get to some Giants talk because they have been in the news for a good amount of bits, starting with tight end Darren Waller, who is not only expected to retire, but also divorced from his ex-wife, Kelsey Plum, and is also thinking of starting a rap career. So, hopefully it works out for him. I'm not going to completely crap on it, but what were your thoughts when you saw that? I mean, it hasn't been official, but what were your thoughts when the reports were coming out saying that he was expected to retire? Because I think it was Schefter that was really the first major insider that came out with it.
Sucks, man. I mean, I think the one thing I will say, I think the Giants have to stop paying players with hamstring injury concerns. They did it with Galladay, Tony, and now Waller. I think that's you try it 3 times and it's like, nope, let's call that a day. But make it when the next free agent signing or big splash they make, if they are thinking about doing it and they have a hamstring injury past, do not do it because this has been too many times. I digress. That is my one thing. Second thing, Darren Waller's still I don't know if this is a hot take. It shouldn't be, but Darren Waller is still a good player. The problem is,
of course,
he
can't stay healthy.
Can't stay healthy. So I think when you're looking at Waller as a player, he doesn't suck. And I think that's where a lot of the dialogue has been oh, the Giants they should get rid of him anyway. He sucks. I'm like, no. Darren Waller, when Darren Waller was healthy for the 4 or 5 games he played, or 6, I think he played 6. Well, no, because he played some games at the end too. So I think he played 8. The problem was he was is the hamstrings. But he was still a good player. So need to clear that up. But yeah, it just, I mean, if he wants to retire, I mean, you got to respect that, right? It's a physical game. He had 3 or 4 really, or 3 really all pro level years. So definitely had a good career. His story's really cool too. I mean, just what he came from and how he was able to bounce back from some pretty just emotional stuff is pretty cool. So I mean, if he's retiring, I can't really hate on him because he wasn't a nuisance in the locker room. He was just a good player. But it just sucks that the injuries didn't work out. So yeah, it does suck. And plus he was supposed to be our big target. So I know I'm kind of rambling between different things here, but
no, you're good.
It just kind of sucks because you really thought he was going to be their tight end for a few years that could really be an 1,000-yard tight end, but the injuries, man, you can't avoid them. So it sucks, but yeah, I mean, hopefully the Giants can find hopefully their tight ends they have now can at least be productive because you're not going to get Waller level production from 2020 and 2021, but yeah, it does suck. That's all I can really say about it.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much took all the words out of my mouth. I mean, it definitely stinks that, the hamstring injuries just kept piling up year after year after year. Because when he's on the field, he's one of the best tight ends in all of football. And then he's out for another week or two because, I mean, they just keep popping up. And that's the big thing that sucks about hamstring injuries is that they can easily be reactivated within a single play. It is a weeks and months long mental recovery just to be able to recover from those things. To be able to just run a simple hitch route.
Oh, it's just, yeah.
I can't even imagine how painful and how difficult it is for those players to really just try to go through them. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much traded Kadarius Toney away for Darren Waller because, I mean, it was a 3rd-round pick that you gave up or that you got for Kadarius Toney, and then you gave that up to get Darren Waller. So,
I mean
he was supposed to be the big receiving threat for Daniel Jones to live up to the hype and live up to his contract extension. And, I mean, the offense think it wasn't really all of Darren Waller's fault. It was just the fact that, Daniel Jones reverted back to what he was in his first few seasons in the league. The O-line was a joke again. Saquon got hurt earlier in the year, so there was no running game. And, I mean, it was easier for teams to just double up Darren Waller and make sure that you play press man coverage because, with Daniel Jones and pretty good but not great receiving core. It was pretty much all going to go downhill from there. So
yeah, I mean, I still feel like the process of trading for him, like doing that, I think like it wasn't a bad move to make because like you can never predict these things. It just didn't work out. So hard to get on the GM for that. It's just stuff like this happens sometimes, you know. So
yeah, I'm not blaming Joe Shane or Brian Dable. They made a smart decision at the time, but it was just, again, it's just hamstring injuries. They always come up. I mean, they're always so freaking finicky to make sure, like, okay, is it okay? Am I going to re-aggravate it? Is there really something wrong? It's really, those are so freaking complicated, and they take a long time to recover from them. And it's the same thing with the cap because, I mean, look at Giannis and Kristaps Porzingis in the NBA. I mean, and KD when they were in the finals. I mean, yeah, it might be good for now, but you re-aggravate it. Not only is your calf the problem, but it's also your Achilles and it's your entire knee. So that's why it takes so long for these players to like really fully recover from them. So
yeah.
But hopefully, you know, whatever decision Darren Waller makes, you know, hopefully, you know, we wish him nothing but the best. If his rap career does begin this offseason, then good luck.
I'll be listening. So, I
mean, he's got to be better than Antonio Brown. That's for sure.
Yeah, fair point.
Or Le'Veon Bell. What other NFL players have like
Kadarius
quote unquote rap careers? Kadarius Toney. Yep, that's true. I mean, you got to be at least better than all three of them.
Yeah.
But all right. Anyways, let's get to another Giants topic here, and doesn't really have anything to do with a current player. It has to do with the former, because I forgot what podcast this was, but CJ Stroud made it known on the record that he thinks that Eli Manning had a better NFL career than Aaron Rodgers. And I kind of get the reasoning because it's all about the chip. It's about the ranks. Eli Manning has 2. Aaron Rodgers has 1. But I'll let TJ answer this question. Do you agree?
I mean, with his logic, I think that, like, I get where he's coming from. So, and also, like, it depends on what you value, too. Like, if you're valuing rings, yeah, obviously, like, it's the numbers game. Like, Eli has 2 Super Bowl MVPs and 2 Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers only has 1. So it's like, you know, I get it from that perspective. Mm-hmm. But in terms of, like, overall career and body of work, like, who is the better player? Yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers, and it's not even close. So I think maybe, like, I don't really think CJ actually believes that Eli was a better player, because, like, there's a difference, like, who had the better career versus who's a better player. I think that's a big distinction that people forget to make, and I think CJ would say Aaron was the best, because it's just like you watch them, you also look at, like, the numbers too. Like, Aaron was better. I don't really think there's debating that, but I always love Eli love, man. I love when Eli gets his flowers. So I was definitely not upset to hear that. I think Stroud also said that if you put Stafford in the same, he said, I'm paraphrasing too, but he said, like, if you put Stafford in the same category as, if you put Stafford in the same surroundings as Rodgers, he would have won more rings. I don't necessarily agree with that because, well, I get what you mean. If Stafford had a better, you know, supporting cast, yes, he probably would have won a few rings, and we saw that with the Rams. But Rodgers did not have the best supporting casts. I feel like he had some bad defenses, similar to, like, Drew Brees. So yeah, I kind of get where CJ's coming from. I mean, he's an NFL quarterback, so he obviously knows more than I do. So hard to argue with him, but I do think that they were some interesting takes, I will say. So
yeah. Let's just get to the Eli and the Aaron Rodgers comparison here. I don't even know why this is even a question, because I mean, the only reason why I brought it up was just to, like, hear what you had to say, since, you know, you're probably, like, the biggest Eli Manning fan on the planet. But I mean, listen, I get that Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls. against the Patriots. I know that he won 2 Super Bowl MVPs because of the game-winning drives that he pulled off in the final minutes, where he pulled off 2 of the most impossible plays that I've seen in NFL history. The first one more impossible than the second. I mean, the second one was the Manningham catch, and it was pretty much the best throw of his entire career. So, obviously, we get all of that. But Aaron Rodgers has 4 MVPs. He's won a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl MVP. He has the record for the best passer rating in a season in NFL history. He's got the lowest interception percentage in a season. He's made 4 first-team All-Pros. He's made 10 Pro Bowls. He's led the league in passing touchdowns twice, and he's led the league in passer rating 4 times, which is flat-out astonishing. Eli Manning, on the other hand, his win-loss record is 117 and 117. It's a 500 record. He led the league in interceptions. He led the league in interceptions 3 times. He's never made an All-Pro team, and at no point was he ever considered a top 5 quarterback. And we can have a different discussion saying, does he deserve to be in the NFL Hall of Fame or not? 50% will say yes, 50% will say no. I am on the latter, but we can have that discussion for another day. But I kind of get the logic what CJ Stroud was coming from because, listen, 2 rings is more than 1, but Aaron Rodgers was a more impactful player in his NFL career than Eli Manning was. Eli Manning, when he won his 2 Super Bowls, had 2 ferocious defenses. In the first Super Bowl, he had one of the best defensive lines in Super Bowl history with Justin Tuck and Michael Strahan and Osi Umenyiora and Steve Spagnuolo calling the plays, pretty much punking Tom Brady for 60 minutes straight. And in the second one, he had JPP, he had Justin Tuck. I think he had Umenyiora. Did he have Umenyiora in the first one too, and the second one?
Yep.
Okay, so he was there in both times. And it was pretty much the similar script. They held Tom Brady under 20 points. They made sure that he was discombobulated for pretty much the entire game. And all Eli Manning had to do was just do enough to win the game. And he ended up getting 2 Super Bowls because of exactly that. With Aaron Rodgers, I'll transition over to the Matthew Stafford conversation. I get where CJ Stroud is coming from because if Matthew Stafford was in a better situation than Detroit through the first 12 years of his career, then he probably would have won another Super Bowl or 2. Hell, if he was on the Patriots, he definitely probably would have had a lot of championships. But at the same time, you transition over to the Packers, you can win maybe 1 Super Bowl, but I would not say that you would have the same amount of success, if not more, than Aaron Rodgers. Matthew Stafford is a hell of a quarterback. And when he went to the Rams, he got the championship that he deserved because he had an actual team around him. So I get where he's coming from. But for the Packers, it's not the biggest upgrade because of what you said. The defenses were not always great. They came up short in the playoffs year after year after year. So I don't really know how much different it would have been than Detroit besides the fact that, you would have won at least more than 1 playoff game there. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It really is tough because I think it's tough to kind of think about context and then see but this would have happened because we don't know. It's not an exact science. But I think with Stafford, I think Stroud was just kind of trying to compare Stafford to a different scenario. I think really what he was trying to do is just show that Stafford is criminally underrated. I think that's what he was trying to do, but I don't think
and he is. He definitely is.
No, CJ Stroud 100% agree with him, but I just think it just the comparison probably didn't come off the best.
Yep. Yeah. That's for sure. I think that's about everything, right? Anything else that we need to talk about?
I think that was the major headlines.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, it's been the dead period of the offseason is just so freaking boring because there's really not much to talk about. But training camp starts in, I think, a month or so. And then the preseason, the Hall of Fame game, that starts early August. I forgot when the 2 editions of the offseason Hard Knocks. I don't know when those are coming out, but
I know the Giants one's in July, but probably the other one's probably in like late July, early August. After that one's over, maybe. So
yeah, so we'll definitely talk about those more and more. But thank you all so much for watching. Pretty quick episode. Make sure you like and subscribe for additional content. Make sure you throw down a comment. Make sure you share. And hopefully the regular season comes faster than we think, because I'm so sick and tired of having to talk about offseason rumors. I miss watching the games and talking about them and writing about them. That's all I care about. But thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next week with another episode. See ya.